Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, or if you're new here, welcome, and welcome back to another educational video. So for today's topic, I have electromyostimulation and whether you need to do it in order to achieve optimal results in terms of muscle growth, improvement in strength, etc, etc. We're going to go over all the details. Now this is a topic that I have had some interest in for a while, and I think a couple of months ago actually I saw a few very popular YouTubers go out there and try this treatment to get a ripped six-pack, and that is when I felt like I really needed to address this topic, because this may be a trend that we will see coming up in India over the next couple of years, and I just thought that maybe it will help to share some information about it, so when the time comes you'll be able to make an informed decision for yourself. So if you guys enjoy this video, please take a second and give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell button so you never miss a video from me again. Now without further ado, let's get into this video. Alright, so we're going to start off by talking about what EMS really is, okay? So electromyostimulation is just artificially activating a muscle group in your body, and how this is done is an electrical stimuli is passed through your body through electrodes that are placed strategically in the proximity of that muscle. So for example, if you are getting EMS for your abs, you're going to see a lot of these surface electrodes placed around the midsection area, and it's going to artificially cause that contraction movement. So for example, if you are training abs at the gym or at home and you're doing sit-ups or you're doing crunches, you are consciously sort of crunching your abdominal muscles, right? So that is known as a voluntary contraction. In EMS, because of these surface electrodes and the electrical stimuli that's passed in intermittent trains, there is an artificial activation of the muscle that goes on there. Now, that being said, over the last few years, I would say even over the last decade or so, there have been quite a few studies that cover this topic, and I'm going to leave my references down in the description box below. So if you want, you can go ahead and check that out for yourself. So since this is a topic that, you know, we've seen researchers dig into for quite a few years now, so now over these years, EMS treatments have also become more and more affordable, and I think that's why a large number of a big crowd is sort of moving towards that direction. But I think another incentive that the institutes that provide this sort of treatment give you is that you will be able to achieve a certain look, or you will be able to achieve a certain amount of strength that you wouldn't be able to if you perform resistance training at all. So this is where I see a problem, okay, wherein I have actually watched a video of a doctor who was conducting this treatment for this popular YouTuber, and he said that this particular treatment helps you achieve results that you wouldn't otherwise achieve if you were just working out at the gym. And that is a problem, because when you make a claim like that, you're basically saying that this treatment is superior to resistance training, it's superior to voluntary contractions that you do when you perform a workout at the gym or at home. So now let's talk about what EMS has actually been used for over the years. So mainly it's been used in rehab settings. Okay, so for example, let's say you or a family member of yours or a friend of yours has gotten into a serious car accident, due to which maybe they got paralyzed from the hip down, there's limited mobility in their limbs. In these situations, EMS has been used to improve these conditions, because in these situations, these people are bedridden and they can't really get up voluntarily and walk around and move them and actually use their leg muscles. So this is where EMS comes in. Surface electrodes are placed on your lower body and it artificially contracts your muscles just to prevent muscle atrophy or muscle loss. So based on my findings, I was able to break down the use of EMS in rehab settings into 4 main conditions. Number 1, re-education of muscle action. So in a situation where some patient has not moved their arm or limb in a certain way for an extended period of time, when you want to teach your body in a way to perform that function again, that is the first condition in which EMS is used. The second condition would be facilitation of muscle contraction. So in a situation where they're not able to voluntarily really squeeze that muscle, really use that muscle, it helps them sort of achieve that contraction. Now, the third condition in which this is used is muscle strengthening. Now, this is something that we will discuss in a little bit more detail. Please don't take this for its absolute term, wherein you're like, hey, I want to put on some muscle and I want to increase my strength, so why don't I just go ahead and do this? This is purely from a rehab point of view, because when you are in rehab, this is usually after some sort of accident, you are trying to develop strength again, strength that you have lost, right? And your abilities sometimes are impaired, like in the example I gave you previously. If you're paralyzed, if you're bedridden, and you want to increase your lower body strength, but there's no real way to do it, that is where this comes in handy. Now, the fourth condition in which this is used, maintenance of muscle mass and strength in extended periods of immobilization. If you're bedridden for months at a stretch, you're going to lose a large amount of muscle if this sort of a treatment is not introduced, which is why if you're somebody who is recovering from some sort of an injury, some sort of an accident that has impaired your ability to work out at your 100%, that is where EMS may be useful to you. So now this is also a highly debated sort of a subject, because practitioners have agreed in certain situations that the results that EMS delivers may have more to do with the patient, with the client themselves, rather than the techniques used. So they're saying that this may be subjective. So now let me very quickly tell you what the difference between a voluntary and involuntary contraction really is. So in a voluntary contraction, in a voluntary muscle contraction, motor units are activated according to their size and threshold. So this basically means that smaller, low threshold motor units are employed or recruited before larger, high threshold ones. Now, coming to an involuntary contraction or an artificial stimulation, there seems to be a bit of a conflict here. So some studies say that the larger motor units are recruited before the smaller motor units in this situation, and some other papers say that there is a random sort of recruitment of motor units. So basically what this means is, in an involuntary contraction, it is possible that you fatigue that muscle much quicker than you would in a voluntary contraction. And this sometimes is misused in a setting like I described previously, wherein a particular doctor was saying that, hey, if you put this on your abs, it's going to give you results that you will never be able to achieve at the gym, because it fatigues your muscles faster. But muscle fatigue doesn't necessarily mean you're going to grow that muscle better, you're going to have visible abs better. That really just comes down to how much of a body fat percentage you have. At the end of the day, no matter how strong your muscles are, no matter how built they are, underneath that layer of fat, they're not going to come out whether you do EMS or not, unless you drop that body fat first. So another difference between voluntary and involuntary contraction is that in voluntary contraction, each contraction is complete, and in an involuntary contraction, each contraction is incomplete even at the maximal level. Okay, so when you go through this sort of a treatment, there are various intensities, and these are set according to your tolerance level. So even at a max intensity, you're not going to be able to achieve that full contraction, full range of motion as you would when you perform a voluntary contraction. One of the papers that I reviewed actually had this section where they spoke about EMS for strength gains, and they found that for unimpaired muscles, for somebody who hasn't gone through some sort of injury, some sort of an accident, for them, increases in strength are complementary to but not superior than resistance training. So what this means is, when used with resistance training, EMS complements resistance training to give you overall strength gains. So increases your strength overall. But it is not superior to resistance training, which means that EMS is not better than resistance training. And also, when done in silos, if you compare only EMS versus only resistance training, EMS will not be able to greater gains than voluntary contraction. In a systemic review of EMS studies, Bax et al. Concluded that for impaired quadriceps, that is your thighs, so for those people who had an impairment in their thighs, EMS training seemed to be better than voluntary training for obvious reasons. Alright, but in cases where we're speaking about unimpaired quadriceps, for people who have not gone through an injury, voluntary training seemed to be superior to EMS training. So if you're someone who's healthy and you're able to actually perform your workouts properly at the gym, there's absolutely no reason why you need to go ahead and get an electromyostimulation. So now coming to its implications for sports performance, these studies have found that sports performance could be improved when EMS is used in conjunction with their athletic drills, with their athletic training. So for example, let's say you have a basketball player and his training involves a lot of plyometrics, a lot of explosive movements, because he requires to have that vertical jump so that he's able to perform in the game. So using plyometrics along with EMS training in, for example, the calf region could be beneficial for an athlete. However, even if you're an athlete, please note that any kind of EMS session should only be administered by an athletic coach or a strength and conditioning coach who is aware of how this works and is familiar with the methodological and physiological aspects of EMS. Now, if you're an athlete and you're looking for a strength and conditioning coach, we at Team Meraki do have one on board. If you guys are aware of Tarun Rajwanshi, I'm going to leave his Instagram over here. He is a certified strength and conditioning coach. So if you want to coach with us and you are an athlete who specifically wants to improve your sport performance, then definitely reach out. I'm sure he'll be happy to help you out. So the literature available has found that EMS could also favor plasticity. Okay, so plasticity is just the opposite of elasticity, right? So let's say you have been training for years and your performance has plateaued. This is where EMS could add that extra stimulation to bring your performance a notch higher. But then again, this does not mean that you take a break from your regular training. This is an add-on. It's not something to be used to replace exercise. Several studies in this domain have shown an increase in muscle strength and muscle mass using EMS to supplement resistance training without causing any change in body fat percentage. So this brings me back to the incident that I mentioned at the start of this video. If you walk into a clinic that administers EMS and you expect that 6 sessions of this is going to give you abs, unless you're already at a very low body fat percentage, I highly doubt that's going to happen for you. So in order to get your fundamentals right, I highly recommend you check out my energy balance video. I'm going to link it over here. That is going to be your fundamentals of weight gain, weight loss. Also check out my video on metabolic adaptation if you feel like you have plateaued. I break down why that really happens and how you can overcome it. Alright, so in conclusion, all I want to say is that whether EMS has to be added to traditional conventional exercise programs or not is still highly debatable. It's still a bit controversial. My advice would be, rather than investing in something that you may not necessarily need, why not give it your all in terms of your voluntary training? Just give it your 100%, give it time, and I promise you, you will get the results that you want. Alright, so that is it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please take a second, give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell button so that you never miss a video from me again. Be sure to check out the links in the description box if you want to read up on this topic, and if you have anything that you want to discuss with me, leave me a comment below. Alright, so I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!